Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, I am going to teach you how to bend your draw notes. So you can play a draw note on harmonica and bend that pitch down. And I want to let you in on 5 secret tips you may not know that will make your process of learning bends a little bit easier. Let's go do this thing and jump into the video. So what's going on? Jonah Fox here with the Harmonica Revolution. If you were like me when I was learning, or most beginners that I talk to, I bet bending has felt like a bit of a wall, a bit of an obstacle that you're trying to overcome because it is essential to be able to bend to get that bluesy sound and really make the harmonica sound like a harmonica. You know, all those bends, if you don't know them, you are very limited with your ability to play scales and play along with different styles of music. So at some point, I bet you want to get this down, but if you're having trouble, I'm going to share some tips with you today that will hopefully get you over the hump. And if you're in that category of people that is struggling to even just get a note to bend at all, I want to go share something for you, so stay tuned for that in a second. But really quick, if you are working up your skills, I want you to consider checking out my free course, the Harmonica Accelerator. It's going to teach you what you should be spending your practice time on, and it's a free video course, and I will share in that course a 5-part daily practice that you can just kind of take it, get all the information and run with it, and you'll see yourself improving like crazy. And I have versions for beginners and intermediate players as well, so you can go access that for free down below in the description, so go and check it out. All right, before I share these tips to make bending easier, let's talk about how you get those notes to bend in the first place. I do have a whole video on this, but let me recap really quick. So you can draw bend on your draw notes on holes 1 through 6. Kind of excluding hole 5. You can do something on hole 5, but there's no note there. The notes that you're actually bending to are between, on the draw bends, are between the blow notes and the draw notes. So I'm going to do 4 blow as an example. Now, the next note chromatically up would be, and that's on a bend, and then it releases to just the draw. All right, so we have to get those middle notes, and the only way to do that is by learning to control the pitch. And it gets a little bit more complicated because on holes 2 and 3, as opposed to holes 1, 4, and 6, where you can only bend a half step, on holes 2 and 3, you can bend 2 and 3 half steps respectively, like. All right, so there's a lot to go and work out here. I'm going to share with you just 4 strategies that I use when teaching bends, and hopefully one of these is going to get you somewhere. So try them out. The first one is to just use a coo sound when you're inhaling. So if your normal inhale is like a ta or a ka, I'm talking about how you're articulating when you are inhaling. And I know it's kind of weird. It's like you're talking when you're inhaling. Your mouth is doing the same kind of thing. So if you're inhaling and you do the sound coo, you should notice a change in pitch. I'm going to switch back to a C harmonica here. Here's a 4 draw. All right, so that comes with that coo sound. It's going to change the pressure in your mouth, and it's going to pull that reed down if you're doing it correctly. Now, this works equally well in tongue blocking and in lip pursing or puckering, but the other tips here are a little bit more specific. The next one is to try whistling inwards. This is going to work with puckering or lip pursing. I'm going to say puckering for the rest of this video. It is going to work a little bit better when you are puckering, just because that position is like the puckering position. So when you whistle, you are kind of, you know, you're pursing your lips together, right? And if you're doing it correctly while inhaling, it's kind of like a suction feeling, like you're sucking through a straw or something. Now, if you're doing it correct, again, you should have a bit of a change in pressure and your note should bend. Okay, so that was puckering, and we got that note bend right there by whistling inwards. Now, this next tip is usable in both embouchures, tongue blocking and puckering, but it works especially well when tongue blocking. So it is to drop the back of your tongue. So when you are tongue blocking, your tongue is on the harmonica there, and the other side of your mouth is covering up, so only one hole plays through. Now, when your tip of your tongue is here, right, we're going to take this part of our tongue, like up here in our mouth, right, and we're going to drop it. Okay, you can't really see it, when I'm doing it, but so I'm taking my tongue there, and the back part of my tongue is dropping down. Think of it like it's caving in almost. And if you do that while you're tongue blocking, your notes really should bend. This does apply to puckering as well, but it's really the way that you bend when you're tongue blocking. So if you're a tongue block player, that's how you do it. You play around with the angles of your tongue, and you're going to kind of collapse it. And hopefully, if you're doing it right, your note should change. And if you're one of those people that you've tried some of these different methods and everything else fails, try just like drawing really aggressively. Just really... You might happen to stumble upon a bend that you can like go back and control at a later date. It's definitely not the way to do it. It's not good form. But if that's what gets you to understand the process, I say go for it. So that is how you get a little bit of a change to happen, but it takes a lot of control on top of that to really be comfortable and confident with your bends. So if you can get at least something to bend, let me now share 5 secret tips that will help you master this skill. And before I do, consider subscribing for more videos like this. It's free. Just click the subscribe button, and YouTube will keep you in the loop when any new lessons come out that I release. So go subscribe, and let's go jump into number 1. All right, tip number 1 is to learn the easy bends first. Some holes, like holes 2 and 3, can have multiple notes you can bend to, right? We went over that earlier. And they are just harder to hit in general. In fact, you might have noticed when you start to learn cross harp and you try to play just 2 draw, for beginners, that note just doesn't want to come out. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's just hard to get that note to ring. And it's equally as hard, or even more hard, to get that note to consistently bend, especially because there's multiple pitches that you're trying to hit there, which takes all different levels of control. So if you want to make some progress, I would say focus on mastering the easier to control bends first. So I suggest you work on getting hole 4 to bend, which is great because hole 4 is used in the blues scale, which you can do a lot of cool stuff like hole 4 draw with the bend, and you can release it and then move up to 5. All right, so there's a little bit that you can do with that 4 bend, and I'm just kind of stopping on this because you want to get a little bit of a win. So all the rest of the holes that you're approaching seem doable. Just don't start with holes 2 and 3. So that's what I suggest. Learn how to bend on the easier holes first. All right, tip number 2 is to use a tuner. Like any musical skill, bending takes control, and the best way to develop this control is to use a tuner. I use an app called Harp Ninja as an example, which is kind of expensive. You might want to use it or not, but any chromatic tuner will really do the job. When you hit your draw note and you drop your bend, you hit the target note that you're aiming for and then hold it. This is really tough, but it will help you get those hidden bends out on holes 2 and 3, as well as make all of your bends in general more consistent. So give it a shot. Next, I suggest you learn how to bend on a lower key harmonica. So if you have one harmonica, let's go say a harmonica in the key of C. That's the most common, right? If you're trying to bend on a C harmonica, I just want to let you know that you are fighting an uphill battle. You're making it way more difficult for yourself than you need to. And I know it's tough because a lot of teachers and a lot of beginning materials are written in the key of C. And while that's great, the movements of bending, like the subtle movements you're doing in your mouth, are just they're a little bit more precise on a C harmonica. Like, it's easier, physically easier to move the reeds on a lower key, and it just requires a lot less precision. So if you're having some trouble just getting notes to bend or getting them to hold on the bent note, you may find yourself having more success if you're bending on a lower key harp, something like an A or a G. The lower you go, the easier it's going to be until you start getting into the low keys, which require just like so much more air that it brings up all its own problems. So pick up a G harp or an A harp and try working your bends on that harmonica as well. And just make sure too that you're playing on at least a standard quality of harmonica, something that's at least $40. Because if you're playing on a toy harmonica and you're trying to do your bends, you're fighting an uphill battle, right? So to make it easier for yourself, make sure you're playing on a good harmonica, at least something $40 USD or above, and that you are working on your bends on a lower key if you're having trouble. If you can't get it in the key of C, go lower. You know, harmonicas aren't that expensive. If you are really into this instrument, there's no problem buying extra ones, and I consider you pick some lower keys up. So that is tip number 3. All right, before we go on, I want to let you know that it is so important to get feedback and direction when you are learning an instrument, and I would like to help you with that. If you're interested in working with me and taking private lessons over the internet, you can learn more in a link down below this video. All right, let's go move on to tip number 4. So tip number 4 is to stay relaxed. Most beginners are really forceful when they play. And if this is what you do, it's fine, but try using significantly less air. The reeds have an easier time bending when you relax. And if you notice yourself feeling very tense, take a couple of deep breaths and try again. It really takes a very small amount of air to get notes to ring out on a harmonica, and it's the same for bending. You don't need to force it. I see people sometimes in internet forums where they're working on bending and like, is my bending breaking my harmonica? Well, if you're using a normal amount of air and you're not really forcing it, there's absolutely no damage that's happening to your harmonica, and you shouldn't even feel that way. So if that's a worry that you're having, you're probably overdoing it. Bends are pretty easy to do as far as the amount of air and the changes that you're happening. Everything's happening in your mouth. It's very subtle. You just don't need to use a lot of force. Okay, I'm using like no force right there. So you can still do it at a lesser volume, and you'll find that you are relaxing a bit. And I've gotten some emails from students who have watched my previous video, and they felt like the big thing that got them to be able to bend was to stop trying so hard, to relax a little bit and just let your body do what it's learning how to do, right? Tip number 5 is to set up your reeds. So usually when you're having issues bending, the problem is your technique, not your harmonica. But if you suspect that it is your harmonica that's holding you back, then there is something you can do. It is called gapping. It's pretty easy. All you do is you take off the cover plates and you get a small screwdriver and you find the problematic reeds and adjust them. So the draw reeds are the reeds that you can easily see on the bottom of your harp. So let's go focus on those. This harmonica is a DeBell Noble. I really like it, but it has a slightly leaky 3-draw bend, and we can fix it by making the opening small enough to fit a piece of paper through. If it's loose, just push the reed down, and if it's too far down, it's going to get stuck. So you can stick a piece of paper under the reed and gently pull it up. You want that gap to be small enough where it is the most airtight that it's going to be, but not too far down where it's getting stuck and not too far up where it's not activating, okay? It takes a bit of trial and error, but proper gapping will make all of your bends more airtight and reliable. And don't worry, as long as you're careful, you're not going to damage your reeds or your harmonica. All right, those are my 5 tips. I hope you found some of them useful and that you can use them and get over this barrier of working on your bends. You know, it's really tough. Without personal feedback, I can't give you a lot more suggestions other than this. And if you want to work with me, you can find the link to do that down below. Also, I have that course that you can access for free. The link is also down below. And if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing for more videos like this. All right, I gotta get going. Good luck with your bending. You're gonna be able to get it if you really just sit down, you work on it day after day, you'll get this skill down. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Catch you later.